good lineups, waiting on some solid ones with Chris Dunn, Kuzma, and Portis, and they're all like, "Yeah, we're gonna shit on you today." Kuzma wasn't terrible, but it was not fun.
Perfect intro. Welcome everybody.
Oh,
Thursday, January 17th. Here we are, staring a 5-game slate in the face. Also, if you're really into basketball in London, tune in to the rousing game between the Knicks and the Wizards in the battle for, I guess, probably Zion Williamson. I don't know. These teams are garbage.
battle for something, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I all I know is that Enes Kanter isn't there because he and Erdogan have some beef.
Yeah, if you're playing the Knicks game today, don't roster Enes Kanter because leaving the country is a difficult proposition for him.
Sure is.
Yeah.
Sure is. You probably want to stay away from him.
Yep.
He doesn't like that guy very much. I mean,
No.
just a hunch.
No, yeah. And it's weird. So much different for him than it is like, I've had disagreements with people in the past, and it's never like, well, I can't go to London or it'll kill me.
Right. Yeah, I know. It's crazy. And they say America isn't a great country.
Yeah.
Don't ever come to me with
Can't
that
make
crap.
it great again. It's been great.
There you go.
The best
There
it's
you
ever
go.
been.
Oh, don't come to me with that crap.
How'd your Wednesday end up?
Not bad actually.
That'll work.
Yeah, not bad. Look, first of all, Harden does it again, and it's just going to keep happening. I'm actually tired of talking about it.
Yeah.
Because it just happens every day. But I was pretty heavy on the late game.
Okay.
And that was kind of what a lot of it came down to. And not bad. I didn't have much Jared Allen, tell you that much.
Yeah.
And I mean, should have seen that a little better. Like knowing that he could have a good game, but the fact that Gary Clark was starting at center, but hey, Danny Green finally didn't do me dirty, and Draymond Green finally didn't do me dirty. He had a very solid game, and that was good to see. That game had 287 points in regulation, Josh. In regulation.
Insanity. It's so nuts. And guess what?
Crazy.
The next time that the Warriors play, they're bringing back one of the best offensive centers in basketball. Just in case they didn't have enough firepower. Boogie's back.
It's crazy. I can't wait for Cousins to return.
Oh, man. Me too. It's going to be great. One way or the other, it's going to be great. They're either going to be ridiculous, even more ridiculous than they've ever been, or he buries them in the weirdest way possible, and it shakes the entire league. Those are the only two options.
I'm very much opposed to the idea that he buries them, and the reason for that is why take such a massive pay cut to come there if you're going to be selfish?
Oh, I don't think he will at all. I'm totally betting on him being like totally cool with everything. He seamlessly works himself in. Whether he looks good or not is irrelevant, and the Warriors just sort of walk casually to another title.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Casually.
I mean, like, I think they all like him.
Sleepwalk.
Like that's the thing. Like,
I don't see why you wouldn't.
Right. By all accounts, he's like a really good guy, like off the court.
Mm-hmm.
He was always great for the city of Sacramento. I know he did a lot of stuff that went very, very under the radar to the national media, but I think he's just a good dude that's kind of like ornery on the court.
Yeah, it's those trust issues with men that he has. Not even kidding, by the way.
Yeah.
He's talked about it. Single mother and this and that, and you get these coaches that come around that want to tell him what to do, but tell him what to do in a way that doesn't really sit right with him. He gets a little, as you said, ornery.
Yeah.
So, what are you gonna do? I think it's gonna be a lot of fun, and I just can't wait to get him back on the court because he adds so much to the game of basketball. He's my favorite player in the league, man. I love DeMarcus Cousins.
He's fantastic. And for every awesome play that he has, he'll have one where he literally doesn't move defensively, and those are the fun ones. It's just like, he just kept his hands on his knees for that entire possession.
Yep. And fortunately,
And Curl rip him
he
right off the
doesn't.
floor for that shit now.
Right. Fortunately, he won't even need to. Even if he does go get lazy and completely just stop playing on a defensive possession, they'll just come back and knock down a three and negate it.
Yep.
So what's it matter?
Yeah. I love it. I'm anxious. The most interesting thing to me for all of this has nothing to even do with this season. I want him to come back and look okay, good enough on his way back to health. I just want to know where he plays next year. I feel like no one's talking about that. But where is he next year?
That is actually my biggest concern, though. My biggest concern is he's returning from an Achilles, and I honestly think that coming back from an Achilles, it seemed worse than an ACL in the past, right? Like
yeah,
you look at
sure.
a guy, you're from the Pennsylvania area. You're from Pennsylvania. I know you're not a Philly fan because for some reason you just turned against all of them, but we'll get into that for another show.
Okay.
Ryan Howard.
Yeah.
Remember when in that final playoff game where he was the last at bat and he tore his Achilles? Not to say that he wasn't the same since. He wasn't even good after that. Like his game,
to be fair, he wasn't really good before that.
That's a ridiculous statement to say. That's a ridiculous.
I had to get it in there.
Ridiculous statement.
I had to get it in there.
He was one of the best sluggers, like in baseball for a decent amount of time.
Stretch.
Oh my God! Really? Okay. I won't. I'm not even going to entertain that nonsense.
I love that during the basketball season we're going into the baseball conversation now. Fantastic. We are great at this.
Oh yeah. This is gonna do us a solid. Yeah, once it gets to noon. Right? Look, he had 58 home runs, 47, 48, 45, and then 31, 33 with 108, 116 RBIs. Then boom, ACL gone, career over. I mean, Achilles. We don't have to. We can say it was something else, but it wasn't. Yeah, the guy couldn't hit a breaking ball, but then he couldn't hit anything. I'm just saying that's a sport where you're standing there, and sure, you need to. There's your body weight, your stance. It all affects your Achilles, and you got to run the bases. But imagine in basketball where you literally your job is to run up, back and forth, back and forth. I get that he's rehabbing it, and I get that he's been out for a while. I'm just hoping that DeMarcus Cousins is going to be able to come back and look like the DeMarcus Cousins of old, because if he isn't, that's going to be really upsetting. Seriously.
I'm with you. I feel like every single one of these injuries that we see, now it's Boogie, Barea probably a little different, but they're going to come back better and better and better and better until the point where it's just like, oh yeah, we just gave him a new leg.
You might be right. You might be right. It just feels like there's something about that Achilles injury.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
I expect it to be slow, but at some point in time, it's just gonna be like, oh shit, like we just know how to fix those now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hope it's this one.
It definitely could be the case, and I hope you're right.
I agree. Chadwick in chat says, look up history of big men and Achilles injuries. Yeah, like the history is bad. Back in the day, if you sprained your ankle, you could have been out for 3 months.
Right. Oh, yeah. Give us some examples, Chadwick.
I can't even think of anybody else that blew it out.
I'm having trouble with it, too. That's why I'd be curious to know. We can talk about it if he brings it up.
Yeah.
But no, look, I'm looking forward to it. I am, and I hope he's all right.
You ready to dive in here?
Let's get it done.
We're touching on the main slate here, 5-gamer. We're kicking it off in the state of North Carolina. Mehmet Okur. Okay. I don't know what to do with that one.
No.
Man, talk about a dude that came along 15 years too early.
Right? Yeah, so...
He's Brooke Lopez, but 15 years ago.
Yeah. Well, this game... Oh, God. By the way, are you a Hornets fan?
Not really.
Because I see you wearing some gear once in a while.
Yeah, I have a bunch of Hornets shit. I had a buddy that worked at Mitchell and Ness, so I got like a ton of sports gear over a couple years. So I tried to get a lot of like Hornets shit just because one, it looked cool. I like the colorway, and two, I was here, but I don't really have like many preferences for teams in the NBA, especially. Like I don't really have anybody. Whereas like in football, I root against the Eagles. I don't really cheer for anybody. In baseball, I root against the Phillies and the Yankees. I don't really care. Like, I hope the Braves do well, but I care more about hating teams than I do liking them anymore. I hope that's probably like a bad way to live. That's probably bad.
What a miserable way to live.
It is. Yeah, it's really sad when you say it out loud.
You and Ben Rasa. You and Ben Rasa.
You're going to have to start a show from B to J.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. This is a good game, though. I mean,
it is.
It's a pace-up spot, a 230 total. Like,
yeah. Hornets defense there's a decent amount so of bad lately.
Terrible, dude. Last I looked, and this was 2 days ago. Bottom 3 defense over the last 30 days.
Yeah, they're giving up fantasy points on a per possession basis 7% worse than average. It's one of the worst teams in the league right now.
Yeah, they're not good. So okay, so since December, what's today? The 17th or 16th? 17th. Right? 17th. We'll go since we'll go since the 16th of December. The Charlotte Hornets are. It looks like they've gotten a little better, but still a 112 defensive rating. That's not good. Like it's not good at all. Just because the Cavs have a 122 defensive rating doesn't mean that Charlotte's is good, because it's not. But the Kings are still a super up-tempo team. Like, we know that they're going to play at an elevated pace. And I feel like recently Charlotte hasn't gotten many really appealing games. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. They played Sacramento and the Clippers, but they had I'm pretty sure one of those was on the weekend. The Sacramento game was, because I did not play. San Antonio's like, yeah. Portland, not a huge fan. This is one where do you jump on a guy like Kemba who finally rebounded? You felt like he would rebound last game once his price dropped under 8K and still nobody wanted to play him.
Yeah,
had a nice one against San Antonio, and then at the center position, I mean, Cody Zeller's out, remains out, and you've got guys like Bismack Biyombo, who's played 22 minutes or more in 3 straight games.
Don't get me started.
Do you look towards like a Bismack Biyombo against this relatively big front court in Sacramento? Lots to talk about here.
Yeah. Everybody, first and foremost, hit that like button while you're here. And if you want to sign up, use the promo code NBA Strategy for 50% off your first month. Let's get those plugs out of the way, since we were too busy talking about Ryan Howard on the Thursday NBA show. And you know what? That's what you're going to get with Laffy and I. Tangents into sports that aren't active.
Yeah.
Don't worry, come baseball season, we'll go right back into that Carmelo Anthony discussion.
There it is.
I like Kemba here. He grades out as my number 1 point guard on Yahoo. He's number 2 for me on FanDuel, and he's 4th for me on DK. Pace up spot looks good. If he's going to keep shooting 25 times a game, like he has in the past 2, compared to that lull that he hit for like 2 weeks where he's in like the 16, 17, 18 range, that's what you need. You need him to gun. And of all the spots in the league, like, this is one of the better ones to just keep gunning. Kings play real quick, and they're not fantastic defensively. They're worse than average. I'm in for Kemba.
Yeah. And you've got a 3-point spread here. Again, it feels like it should stay very close, right? There's no reason to think that it wouldn't. Kemba Walker's a very, very reasonable play here.
Yeah.
And if Kemba was, it's probably a good thing that Kemba isn't down, like, still at 7,900 on DraftKings, coming off of his first good game in what feels like a century, because then you just have literally everybody playing Kemba Walker.
Yeah.
So I really don't have an issue with this being the case here, that he's come up in price a little bit. That, I think it makes it a little bit easier. On FanDuel, he's 9,200. So you're not just going to plug and play Kemba. You're going to have to find a way to make it work. My thing though is, and I obviously like Kemba quite a bit. Tony Parker coming off that, phenomenal narrative revenge game with 17 fantasy points where he just, blew the lid off San Antonio Stadium. I wonder how many people are going back. No, I'm kidding. What the serious question was, Jeremy Lamb. He's back. He's healthy. He was out for a week there, a week plus. He's come back. His price was on DraftKings the highest we'd seen it in a while, up in that low to mid 6K range. Now he's down to 5,700. He played 31 minutes last time out, and you got it. So 5,700 on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he's 5,900. This is one of the better salaries we've seen on Lamb if we think he's going to get 30 minutes, because it's a pace up spot in a game that we should see. I mean, again, the Warriors Pelicans 287 in regulation. I'm not saying that's what we get here, but there's enough possessions to go around in this era of basketball.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with Lamb. He's probably like a second or third tier guy for me at the position today. 20% expected ownership on FanDuel, 16% on DraftKings. Like, that just feels like where it should be. It would be hard for me to take a stand in either direction. Kemba's 31% on FanDuel, 18% on DraftKings. 31% is probably more than I even want, which is kind of crazy.
Yes, because Kemba is so very capable of just completely shitting the bed in good matchups.
Yep, that is very true. And there's a couple other options at point guard today on FanDuel where I'd be comfortable redistributing some of that ownership.
Oh, sure. I mean, Kemba's not your only good play, no question. You have OKC on this slate. You've got, I mean, well, we'll get into all of them. There's plenty to talk about here.
Yeah.
I just think Charlotte's interesting because there's nobody that's like, okay, it's not OKC versus Sacramento where you're like, okay, Westbrook, Paul George. If Dennis Schroeder's cheap, we'll go with Schroeder too. It's not like that. So you have Kemba, you have Lamb, and I agree. Lamb's a secondary option here. I think he's a fine secondary option, by the way. I could see a decent game from him. But then outside of that, there really isn't a whole lot unless you're looking at like a Marvin Williams. So the question really is, what are you doing with Bismack Biyombo against a Sacramento team that not only allows the most rebounds to the center position this season, but is allowing more than one rebound per game than the next worst team? Now, that might not sound like a lot, but it's really significant when you look from 30th, from worst to best. And, from the one to the next, they're all separated by like 0.1 rebound, 0.2 rebound. The Lakers are 29th with 17.3 rebounds allowed per game to opposing centers. Kings are at 18.4. That is a significant jump, Josh.
It's massive to get that sort of gap, especially at the extremes of it.
Yes, exactly. And this, with the sample that we have, we're 3 months into the year.
Yeah, it's legitimate now. Okay, so you're bringing up Biyombo. I'm circling back for 1 second. Marvin Williams, 4,800 on DraftKings. Projected ownership right now, 30%. How do you feel about that one? You're more of a DK guy.
Oh, if he's going to be 30% or close to it, count me out.
Agreed. So Biyombo.
Count me out. Yeah, I want to know what you think of Biyombo.
What I think about him and how this day is going to work out are two very different things. Clearly, I don't have a ton of interest in Bismack Biyombo as him being a person that plays basketball. However, I looked at some numbers this morning, and I ran my sim for FanDuel this morning, and Bismack Biyombo is like my clear number one center.
How did I know it?
I hate it so much, but I'll elaborate.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, so we talk. I know Adam does a lot. We talk about guys' probabilities of hitting a target score for a tournament, and I calculate all of that out for every single player on the slate. And then I run a sim of the entire slate. I run the slate 5,000 times. Everybody gets their own, essentially randomly generated score based on my projection, their standard deviations, and I compare that to how often they hit their target score. Bismack Biyombo is one of the top 3 value centers on FanDuel today, more than any other center on the slate, using my model. I have him in for 23 minutes. But 4,400 is just a place where it's really easy to get to him and see him get to a score of like low 30s. It's craziness. But he hits that mark and puts himself in the top 3 at center more than anybody else at center.
Listen, this is why I'm asking you about it, because there's no question that he's a guy we have to talk about. And, there's a lot of people who are like, oh, how are you playing Bismack Biyombo? Well, you got 5 games on the slate. You got a significant pace-up spot. And also, keep in mind, a lot of people think of Bismack Biyombo as this, towering traditional center that in a fast-paced game would probably lag behind. Well, keep in mind, Bismack Biyombo is 6'9". He's not some big, like, hulking Boban Marjanovic. He's actually, you're talking, it's a 6'9" center, man. He's like Bam Adebayo, right? So I think he's perfectly fine. I think he's a strong play. Do I wish that Biyombo was closer to minimum salary? I do, but I don't think this is a terrible spot for him. I feel like when you talk about his per minute production, like he's averaging north of a fantasy point per minute this year, or actually right around the fantasy point per minute. I'm fine with that. We've seen him in the past, be good enough. I'd love to know that he was going to get 27 minutes or more, but 5 games, you're going to have to go somewhere. And I will just backpedal for a second. I want to be clear about Marvin Williams. It's not that I don't think Marvin Williams is a good play, because I actually think he's fine at this price, given what he's been producing recently. But if he is, if that ownership stays around there, I'll probably, and I know it sounds stupid, I'll probably go back to the well with some Bobby Portis. You keep hearing limited to 28 minutes, limited to 28 minutes. Well, you know what? I should rephrase this. With Wendell Carter Jr. out, I'm not really saying anything, but meaning that Portis is going to be even higher owned. But
he's
I think
number one on both sites right now.
Right. I forgot Wendell Carter was out. But even so, I like Bobby Portis so much more than Marvin Williams. So
I hope so, because he is 54% owned on DraftKings right now.
Yeah. I forgot. I totally forgot for a second that Wendell Carter was not. If Wendell Carter was in, I would still have some Bobby Portis, is what I was getting at. And then I realized,
and that's a good comp for it too. But yeah, I have my eye on Biyombo a lot, and it scares me. Clearly, it's Bismack Biyombo, but that allows me to go to more Paul George, more Kawhi Leonard, more Bradley Beal, more Ben Simmons, more Kemba, more Russ. There are less spots to pay down at the other positions than there are for Biyombo right now. I don't like it. The only really positive mark coming out of this is that Sacramento plays like more centers than they should on a day-to-day basis. So I think that Biyombo should be good for like 23 to maybe 25 minutes. And at that point, I'll take my chances. How often does Sacramento get to the rack? Because what you're looking for really out of a Bismack Biyombo game is for him to catch a couple blocks. That's how you get to your ceiling Bismack Biyombo game.
I can tell you right now.
You might beat me to it. Sacramento, middle of the pack in frequency at the rim.
Okay.
So indifferent.
I mean, I wouldn't be worried too much about that.
Oh no,
De'Aaron Fox drives to the rack a lot. He just kicks it out so often. So what Kings are 32.9 field goal attempts per game. Yeah, they're like 12th or 13th or something. But it is what it is. You're getting a spot where you kind of just have to go there.
Yeah. So Kemba is my main focus coming out of this game. Biyombo on FanDuel. I think that you could work in Kemba, Lamb, Marvin Williams, Biyombo, and maybe Malik Monk on DK, depending on what you need. And then on Yahoo, it's probably just Kemba and Biombo for me.
Yeah, with Monk, I mean, you're just taking it. I'm off of Monk in this spot. I don't. He's inexpensive. Maybe he gets the minutes, but it's just so rare that right now he's getting the minutes and playing well.
Yeah.
I,
Oh,
it's tough.
he's 150 line type guy.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, then with that, I'm fine with it. What
I can't
about where
imagine
you at
getting him
on
in a 20 max.
with Sacramento? We were getting such good price points on these guys for the first like 2 months of the season.
Yeah, they're gone.
Then everything changed, right?
Yeah.
Uh, although guys like Willie Cauley-Stein, on DraftKings at least 6,500. Um, although that the minutes have been a little bit more concerning recently, especially if you look at how they're rotating those bigs. Harry Giles' minutes have been weird, but there. Marvin Bagley, you look at his minutes, right? 25 and 24 over his last two. That's encouraging. It's a weird spot for the Kings bigs right now, and it's hard to get to any of them, but it's hard to completely rule any of them out either.
Now, apparently, it's not that hard to get to Harry Giles on FanDuel. 32% expected ownership.
Well, it's easy to get to him.
Sure.
Obviously,
Yeah.
he's super cheap, but I mean, it's also easy to see a way that Giles plays like 9 minutes.
Right.
We've seen it so right. That's all I'm saying. If Giles gets the same, 8 or 19 minutes, then sure. It's just not that I'm confident in it, but
no, I'm with
yeah,
you.
if you're playing a lot of lineups, you have to have some Giles because he's just going to end up in lineups at that price, no question.
Yeah, I like the Charlotte side of this game a lot more, particularly on FanDuel, where everyone's sort of not priced well. DK Sacramento side, 22% to Willie Cauley-Stein, 15 to Buddy, 31 to Bogdan, 10 to Bags. Like a lot of exposure there. I don't feel the same way about them on FanDuel, but Bogdan for 5,500 on DK is probably the best play out of the Kings.
Yeah, he is, but it would be nicer if Iman Shumpert was out.
Yes, it would.
If Shump was out, I'd be like exclusively on Bogdan there, no question. But now you're looking at probably still around 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Just it was nicer when you knew he was getting those starts and he had an opportunity to see upwards of 35, 36. But no, I'm with you. I think Bogdanovich at 55 on DraftKings at least is still really, really nice. And look, Buddy Hield has come back down to earth lately, and I can't say anyone's surprised, right? Like, are you surprised that a guy that is making his living on just shooting the ball has gotten into a funk? No, it happens to everybody. But if he gets out of it here at 6,100, then I don't think it's a bad spot. Now, interestingly, his shot volume is super erratic because you've got Fox one day. It might be Fox, Cauley-Stein, Bogdanovich, Marvin Bagley's back now. Like they got a bunch of guys that can kind of shoulder the load or at least take away some of that shot volume. But Buddy Hield at 61 is not a guy I have an issue with at all.
No, I'm with you there. I have it. They're just so like on FanDuel, Hield and Bogdan are separated by $200. I basically need to just rotate through them. They're hard to prioritize. I like Buddy Hield at 6,100 on DraftKings, but it's just easier to spend $5,500 on Bogdan and walk away. However, if Bogdanovich is going to be 31% owned like we have him and Buddy Hield is 15%, I'd rather probably just flip those two.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because from an upside standpoint, there's no doubt that Hield has more.
He does indeed.
Yeah. And with De'Aaron Fox, by the way, Yogi Ferrell is stuck in the rotation, and now you've got De'Aaron Fox where the minutes are he's getting in the low 30s, but he was getting in the mid to high 30s every game. Like he's lost 3 to 4 to at some points even 5 minutes per game in these competitive spots, and when you're above 8K. I want to know that I can get as many minutes as possible. Fox is not getting them right now, and I don't like that at all.
He should be playing a little bit more.
Look, with
he's
those
the best
price
player on the
points,
damn
5
team.
minutes, 5 minutes per game might not sound like a lot, but it's a lot.
Yeah. Like, I have
when
him
you're
in for
paying
31 right
that
now.
much.
I'd like to see him more at like the 34 number.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you like anything else coming out of Sacramento?
No, not right now. I agree that Giles is in play. You know, if he and if he were to get up to say like 20 minutes or 23 like we saw against Detroit, then you're feeling really good. I mean,
Yeah.
he's $3,900 on DraftKings on an abbreviated slate. He's 36 on FanDuel. Giles, I'll tell you this much, just to keep it simple. I would much rather pay down for Giles than pay, 61 for Bagley or 52 for Bagley, where Bagley could really end up playing 20 minutes too. Bagley could only play 22 minutes. Giles could play 18. I'll take the 4 fewer minutes at a huge discount.
Oh, absolutely. At 10% expected ownership for Bagley on DK. Giles, 1. It just makes it a little easier too.
Very much so.
But yeah, I don't have much else here. Sacramento is not as appealing as I would like them to be. Most of my value is coming out of Charlotte.
Yeah, I'm fine to move on.
Alrighty, let me switch this out here. Ooh, this one's for you. Indiana Pacers hosting Philadelphia 76ers. 113.75 implied total for the Pacers, 110.75 for the Sixers. So Pacers are 3-point favorites at home. We'll start on the Indiana side. Nice little pace up spot for Indiana. $8K for Victor Oladipo on FanDuel, $7,600 on DraftKings, $29 on Yahoo. This should be like a really good Victor Oladipo spot, shouldn't it? If he's going to be Victor Oladipo.
It absolutely should. I wanted to say something quickly, and I won't sidetrack us. It is about this Pacers team.
Hit me.
Think about, and I think you'll appreciate this. Think about the fact that since returning, Victor Oladipo has, you're not going to say he hasn't helped the Pacers. That would be silly, right? He's still, a serious threat out there.
Yeah.
But he has not looked very good. Okay. He has not looked very good. You consider that, and then also consider how good the Pacers are still playing since he has returned. I mean, he has come back. The Pacers are holding on to third in the East. They're 8-2 over their last 10. And Victor Oladipo has been invisible in some of these games, and by some of them more than not. And they're still doing as good as they are. I mean, this basketball team doesn't have a lot of big name players, but the Sabonises, the Turners, even the Josephs and the Collinsons and the Thad Youngs and the Bogdanovich, as a team, as a cohesive unit, they've said, all right, well, Oladipo isn't going to, win us games right now. We'll go out and win them on our own. You can argue that the matchups and the schedule have been easy, but they're still playing, every other night and winning almost every other night. Yeah. It's pretty impressive given that Oladipo, you would think that if Oladipo was playing like this, they'd go on an extended losing streak.
I mean, they were terrible last year anytime Oladipo wasn't on the floor.
Right.
If I remember correctly, they might have lost. They might have been like 0-7 or 0-8 in games that he didn't play. This season, when Victor Oladipo is not on the floor, they are still +5 points per possession for the game.
It's crazy, right?
They have a 92nd percentile defense. They've just been fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, their defense with Oladipo out was like number 1 in the league.
Yeah, really good. Really, 103.7 points per possession. That's phenomenal. And they're 75th or 73rd percentile or higher in every defensive category: effective field goal percentage, turnover rate, offensive rebound rate, free throw rate. They've just been great. And on offense, they're basically just gacking up the ball a little bit. But otherwise, +5 with Oladipo out.
Wow.
They've been great. They remind me a lot of the Spurs. They just seem to be like solid doing it with guys that you wouldn't expect to be like fitting those pieces together.
Yeah, and their pace is actually, I know we talked about this, but now that we had the full sample with Oladipo off the court, their pace increased by 3 possessions per 48.
Yeah, that's nuts.
It is.
Nuts.
Last year, though,
yeah.
Last year with Oladipo off the floor, running it right now. I wanted to see if I'm not going to get wins and losses. Obviously, I don't feel like looking that up right now, but they had to have been markedly worse than they were this year. So they were offensive rating was 8 points per 100 possessions worse. Defensive rating was 6 points per 100 possessions worse. This year, the D rating's better. Their pace stayed exactly the same, but look at that, man. Last year, 8 points worse per 100 on offense, 6 points worse, 6.5 on defense. So, yeah, you're right. It's crazy.
They were -8 in cleaning the glass when Oladipo was off the floor last year. +5 this year. 13-point swing.
Mm-hmm. Crazy.
And it's essentially the exact same team?
Yeah, pretty much. They didn't have Joseph last year, did they? Maybe they did.
Yeah.
No.
Corey
Did
Joseph?
they?
Yeah. I mean, the only guy that's different is, basically Tyreek.
They did. I couldn't remember when he left Toronto.
The bonus took a big leap this year. Miles Turner defensively has taken a monster leap this year. Thad Young in a contract year has been playing pretty well, and Bojan is like one of the steadiest dudes in the league. He's shooting the lights out last I checked.
Don't forget they got Kyle O'Quinn.
That's true. They've got Kyle O'Quinn not playing unless one of those other two guys are out there.
Exactly. To revisit your original question, this is a spot where I will jump on Depot. Look, 7,600, probably the cheapest he's been all year. I am going. Yes, I'm getting back on Oladipo here. It's been a minute since I've rostered him, and I think this is probably the time. I have a tough time not thinking that he can pull through here. And you know what? Even if he doesn't have a monster game, I feel like you could still get your 40 and not get burned by Oladipo. 7,600 on DraftKings. It's too good to not, even 8K on FanDuel. There comes a point where you have to say, all right, he's not playing well, but I know he's a very good player, and eventually he's got to turn it around. And he's already had since returning, he's still had some good games, but more of them haven't been good. I'm willing to bet that this is one of the good ones.
Yep, I love him here. I'm willing to go to Oladipo with a decent amount of volume. I have to circle back to this. Do you know what Bojan Bogdanovic is shooting this year from three?
Well, I'm gonna have to say like 49% or something crazy now that you brought it up.
46.6.
That's insane.
Yeah,
and it's not like he only attempts 2 of them per game.
4.5 or something like that. Yeah, he should be shooting more probably. Impressive. But it seems to be working, so it's hard to say that.
But Oladipo, like on DraftKings, we have him at 20% projected ownership, which is not that high given the price point.
No, not at all. I would have expected slightly higher than that, which is appealing. He's at 26 on FanDuel. That's probably the ceiling of where I would want to be. Just a lot else to like. Corey Joseph also getting some love on FanDuel, 20%. I get it.
He was good to me the other day.
I'm a fan.
I'll take 20. I'll take 23 from Joseph when I need it. 23, 25. That's really what you're hoping for. And you're just hoping that, you're really just hoping you get 23, 25, 26 from Joseph. And that the only reason you're playing him is because you have a Russell Westbrook or a James Harden paired with another top price guy, and they need to both go for 70 plus. Yeah. So if they do, Corey Joseph doesn't burn you there. I don't see myself getting too much of him. He did lose minutes in that game due to a blowout, but I'm not sure I see the need to get to Corey Joseph here. I do feel like it's going to be an Oladipo game.
I hope so. What do you want to do with the rest of this Pacers team? I'd like to have more. They're getting a little bit more ownership than I really like. Like Bojan's at 25%. I know that I was just eschewing his virtues a couple seconds ago, but 25% seems pretty heavy. And then if Turner is now back, it kind of makes Turner and Sabonis difficult to prioritize.
They're truly one of the most difficult teams to evaluate, because outside of Oladipo, and honestly now it's Oladipo included, they're all just there's nothing here that screams, okay, he's the guy, or he's gonna take over today. It's just one of them gets hot, one of them plays well and has himself a game. Like I think Turner at 67 is fair, but I don't see myself going there. I think he's gonna have a very difficult time against Joel Embiid here. Could he get some block shots? Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised to see that be the case, but I also wouldn't be surprised to see his minutes limited in this game if they need scoring. I'm probably getting away from Turner. Sabonis is too expensive at this price. You know, he played 20 minutes last game, blowout, of course. But even so, he's probably going to see 26, 27 in a close game, and 7,100. No, thank you. With Thaddeus Young, I don't think that's a terrible play, but I also don't think he's priced all that nicely. I mean, you're still paying almost 6K for him. You're paying 6,300 for him on FanDuel. You do have a pace up spot. You do have a game that right now has a 220 or 224 and a half total, which is fine. Thad Young is strictly a filler play to me, and I feel like most of the guys not named Oladipo on this team are filler plays. You just get a little bit of exposure to all of them and move on with Bogdanovich and such. But nobody I'm particularly high on.
I feel the same way. Just cycle through them. Outside of Oladipo, which is the pretty clear priority across the board, they'll be, they've got somebody at every position. So you can get a lot of bites at this game. It's just there's no one that you should have a ton of volume to, in my opinion. Like 25% Bojan on FanDuel, no. 20% Corey Joseph on FanDuel, no. But I do want those guys, but I don't want to be over the field or with the field on them.
Yeah, neither do I. And the Sixers defense, so they play at a fast pace. Their defense definitely has some flaws. There's no question about it. They allow a good amount of 3-point attempts per game, but from a 3-point percentage, they're actually an above average team at limiting effectiveness there. It's just like it's not a bad matchup, and it's not a good matchup. Which means that with Oladipo, I'm getting a discount, even though he hasn't played well. I'm getting a discount on his ceiling, and I think that's why I like him as much as I do. But aside from that, I'm pretty much off of him.
Okay. Embiid, Simmons, Butler. Oh, these Sixers are priced a lot better on DraftKings than they are on FanDuel. Let's start there.
Yeah.
20% ownership for Embiid, 26 for Butler at 6,800.
Ben Simmons has been like silly good lately.
He really has.
Right? He's scored 20 plus points in 3 straight, 5 of his last 7. If you told me that Ben Simmons was going to go out and give you, 20 points, no more, no less, he was going to give you 20 points, actual points each game, and he was 9,200, you'd have an incredible amount of interest in him because you know that it's unlikely that he's going to give you less than double-digit rebounds, right? He's going to give you 8 to 11 assists. He's going to grab a couple steals and a block or so. If Ben Simmons continues, and it's not hard to do, he gets to the rim. He does a wonderful job getting to the rim, and he's actually beginning to shoot more from outside, which I get it. He doesn't convert on a lot of them, but the good thing is that it will result in more shot volume just because when he's not getting to the rim, he's at least taking some of those fadeaways, and I'll take 2 of them per game compared to none of them. And just look at his shooting, look at the volume, look at the last game, 26 minutes in that. I mean, they shit all over Minnesota. That hurt too because I had a good amount of Butler and Simmons. But he had 20, 11, and 9, 20, 22, and 9 before that, 23, 10, and 15 before that. You just go down the list. Simmons has been very good. And there's obvious reason for it. This isn't a fluke. He's getting to the rim more. He's getting a bit more aggressive, and he's rebounding like a fiend.
Yeah, 1.4 fantasy points per minute over the last 30 days. That is a very, very aggressive rate.
Yeah, he's been good.
Embiid's been fantastic too. 1.7 over the last 30 days. Well, that's a lot. Mm-hmm. That's a hell of a lot. And that said, I don't have a ton of interest in either of those guys on FanDuel.
No, it's different on FanDuel where you've got, Simmons at 10-7. Embiid at 11-1 really isn't crazy. But where you have Simmons at 9-2 and Embiid at 10-1. Honestly, I get that Indiana makes for a tough matchup, but if you're getting those prices, I have no problem with either of them. Now, I don't think I'm playing them both in the same lineup, but those are very, very, very reasonable prices. Jimmy Butler, 6,800. This is a dynamic pricing thing on DraftKings against the Pacers. We see it matchup based all the time. Even Butler, I'll tell you right now, even Butler, I'm gonna have some interest in. Uh, Not obviously not a cash game play, but to say that he can't, produce at 6,800, I think is crazy, especially given that we're saying, oh yeah, we really like Oladipo, who can obviously have should have more usage, but it's not like Oladipo has been great either. So yeah, Butler, but mostly I really do think Simmons at 9,200, just with the way that he's been producing lately, is tough to get away from here.
I don't disagree. And only 7% expected ownership for Simmons on DraftKings.
Yeah.
So if you liked it before, I assume you like it even more now.
Well, that's what I was going off of is the projected ownership. You just get the impression that because it's the Pacers, and because Ben Simmons isn't I think people get a little gun shy or trigger shy on Simmons once his price comes up a little bit, like above 9K. But really, given his numbers and given the way that he's been playing recently, I'm not worried about that at all. Just watch Ben Simmons now, from after Christmas up until now, and then watch him before Christmas, because it seems like, honestly, it sounds arbitrary, but that's around when you started to see a change in his game. I don't know what happened. I don't know if he got sick of the crowd telling him, shoot, fucker, or something like that. But whatever it was,
I mean, that's probably what it was. He's in Philadelphia. They weren't kind about it.
They weren't. They weren't. Maybe it worked.
Yeah.
But I like what I'm seeing. I think. How could you not?
I'm with you. Get some Ben Simmons if he's only 7%. You could probably safely not have 26% Jimmy Butler, but you still want some at that price point. What do you want to do with Embiid? 20% ownership on DK, 10K. It's just
at 10K. What do you have to lose, right? Seriously.
Yeah. There's no reason to be shocked at like a 65-point fantasy game here. 70-point fantasy game. What you're paying for.
Yeah. He's not I'm not saying you have to play Joel Embiid, but I mean, at 10,100, nobody's complaining about there's no reason to be complaining about that at all. He's $500 cheaper than Nikola Jokic.
That seems about
basically
right.
Basically the same price as Paul George. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good price.
I'd have some Embiid, but I'd have a hard time prioritizing anything out of Philly in this spot. It's not that kind of game.
All right.
Like I don't have any interest in anything under Butler. Like Redick's at 18% on DraftKings. That seems way too high to me.
5,400, I'm fine with him, but again, it's really just that I'm fine with him, kind of like a Thaddeus Young or a Bogdanovich. I expect the game to be close, so I expect all of these starters to get their regular minutes and potentially more in a game that, remember, this is a pretty meaningful game. These guys have been jockeying for position in the East all season long, so it is a pretty interesting matchup.
Yeah.
So that's not to say that they're going to play like it's the postseason, but these guys are all going to get. I wouldn't be surprised to see them get a little bit more than their regular per minute averages going into this one, right? They have they're one game behind the Pacers in the East, and of course, you still have a long way to go in the season, but it's a game of kind of sizing each other up.
If you're looking for a good reason to play JJ Redick, the Pacers are 28th in the league in non-corner three volume. So basically most of the threes that JJ Redick takes. Anything above the break, they give up a lot of. And, Redick from time to time tends to take a lot of threes.
Yeah, tell me about it. And he very rarely takes those corner threes, you're right.
He's just never there, He's running around so much that it's hard for him to get to that spot in the court. We could be wrong. That's just the way that I think about it in my head. I'm looking it up now.
I think about it, and I would almost assure you that the majority of his 3-point attempts are not from the
he's middle of the pack in terms of corner threes for like combo guards. He is 96th percentile in non-corner threes, so exactly what we were talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, if that's something that you want to take a look at, the Pacers tend to give up the things that Redick does the most of. We'll see where that goes. Move on?
Yeah, I'm good to move on here.
7:30 start. The Toronto Raptors hosting the Phoenix Suns. 119.5 implied total for the Raptors, 106 for the Suns, so 13.5-point favorites. As of right now, everybody is in for the Raptors. I would not be surprised if that wasn't the case at tip-off. They've got enough guys healthy now. I don't have CJ Miles in the rotation. I have 10 guys projected to play. They can drop one of their starters today for rest purposes without really affecting the team. It would not shock me, particularly in a home game.
No, it would shock me if somebody didn't rest.
Okay.
that's the way I see it. And look, they're on their second of a back-to-back. They just lost a close fought game with Boston at TD Garden.
Yeah.
And now you travel back home and you've got a matchup with the Phoenix Suns. It's no surprise that Kawhi played against Boston because, hey, sit him against Phoenix. Now, you never know. In November, there were multiple reports out of Toronto that Kawhi Leonard was nearing a return in terms of playing back-to-backs. Yeah. Multiple. Okay.
Yeah, I played him in both of those back-to-backs. He sat them both.
Oh, look at that. I'm sorry. That is the best timing you could ever get on a strategy show.
I see
Kawhi Leonard ruled out. Kyle Lowry ruled out. OG Anunoby ruled. Literally, that just dropped as that's amazing. This just proves we live in like a parallel universe or something, man. What the hell just happened? It's 10 o'clock on the East Coast. It's not 5:30 or 6 o'clock, Josh. This isn't normal timing. Come on.
Like we
this
said,
is crazy.
Wouldn't shock us if someone sat out for the Raptors.
Right. Actually, would shock me if they didn't. That is crazy. There it is. I know I get a little excited about this stuff, but I what a wild
I didn't expect all three of them there.
Literally as on cue as you could possibly get.
All right, I'm going to update this while we're on
here
now.
What a day.
Yeah, shout out to Nick Nurse and the Raptors squad here. Much obliged.
I think he's watching the show.
Yeah, Nick, if you're watching, reach out. We're happy to do an interview.
Yeah, he's watching it and he like quick gets on the phone. He's like, let them know they're out. Yeah, that's what's going on.
Glad they gave you the job, Nick Nurse. Dwayne Casey would have never done that shit for us.
Never. I cannot believe that timing.
All right, so I just took out OG Anunoby, Kawhi Leonard, and Kyle Lowry. I now have 88 minutes to redistribute, so we need to do that before we do anything, clearly. Fred VanVleet is probably going to play a few minutes.
Yeah, just a couple.
Yeah.
Fred VanVleet's going to play 34 minutes.
I put him in for 30. And the only reason I did was because he went, 19 game off 18. I'm not sure that he's healthy enough that they're going to run him into the ground. I could see a couple extra minutes that would have been VanVleet's going to DeLon Wright. Or to Norm Powell or something that they've got enough.
All right.
I'm a little nervous about his full upside for his minutes today. I don't think that it matters at all, really. I think 30 minutes for VanVleet is still going to make him like a monstrous value, so it probably doesn't matter all that much. But I'm a little nervous about them running him out there for big minutes.
I'm okay with it. I'll put him at 30 right now just so we have some cohesion here. Plus, we have to actually dig into it to see where the rest of the minutes are going to come from. Now, just kind of eyeballing everything.
Yeah, this is off the dome.
Right, exactly. So then you have guys like, now remember, we've seen a lot of situations with Lowry or Leonard out, a couple with both. But in a lot of those games, Norman Powell wasn't healthy.
Right.
CJ Miles wasn't healthy. Patrick McCaw wasn't on the team. Now,
Still hasn't played yet.
it,
Is this the spot?
honestly, your guess is as good as mine. But does it not feel like this would kind of be a good spot for Patrick McCaw to play?
You would think.
But that's kind of what I'm saying. This actually isn't as easy as it was in December.
Right.
It's not as easy to break down as it was in December. I don't know. He played what? 3 games with the Cavs. And then Toronto picks him up. He's been with them for 3 games. Hasn't played any of them. But
I'm going to give him minutes here because there's plenty to go around.
Me too, but how
I just
many?
gave him 14. I just gave CJ Miles 12. I've already given minutes to Van Vliet and DeLon Wright, and I still have 38 more to distribute. So,
right. And the crazy thing is Anunoby's out too.
Right.
So
Norm Powell's going to get a decent amount of run here.
I mean, what are we going to get some run from Malachi Richardson?
Yeah, or Lorenzo Brown.
I mean, I can tell you this
Lorenzo
much.
Brown might not be with the team anymore.
He is not. He is not.
Never mind. Not going to be Lorenzo Brown.
I think, when you look at Pascal Siakam, it's crazy to think that even with Kawhi and let all these guys healthy, or have been for the last however while, 7K on DraftKings, but 67 on FanDuel. Siakam's been pretty good with Kawhi out. They don't, now you look at this team, who are your guys to really get it done? Not Danny Green. CJ Miles is still nothing but a spot up guy.
He's been so bad this year.
Yep. Ooh. Norman Powell, I mean, we know what you're getting from him. Think about it. They have other than Fred VanVleet, there's really nobody that you just expect to kind of take over, with control, initiate the offense, or even, hold the ball for more than 2 seconds at a time in your half court sets, other than Siakam.
Yeah, they are running thin on dudes here. Oh boy. Pat McCaw almost has to play today.
I don't know how he couldn't. I really don't.
I think we could probably see a couple minutes to... Is it Boucher or Boucher?
Boucher.
Figured as much.
They have 12 guys that are healthy. Okay? You have 12 guys. Now, how many of them will play? Like Jordan Lloyd's on the roster. I don't think Jordan Lloyd plays. So let's just take him out for a second. You have Boucher, you have Green, Ibaka, McCaw, assuming he plays, Miles, assuming he plays. If he doesn't, you'll be done even more. Monroe, Powell, Richardson, Siakam, Van Vliet, and Wright. So that's 11, assuming Miles is in.
Yeah.
If Miles is out, then you're down to 10. But then you have to remember that, okay, you might be down to 10, but Greg Monroe isn't playing at the 4. No. So then you say, okay, well, how many wing players do we have? And you've got Danny Green, you've got McCaw, Miles, Powell,
Malachi Richardson.
Right. So 5.
Yeah. They're pretty malleable. All right. I've got everything in right now into the point where I think
tell me what you
matters.
got.
So we could break this into guys that I think that are playable and guys that aren't right now. I have Ibaka, Siakam, Van Vliet, DeLon Wright, Norman Powell, and Danny Green all at 26 minutes or higher.
Okay.
I have Greg Monroe, CJ Miles, McCaw, Boucher, and Richardson at 14 minutes or lower. Now, if Miles comes out, you probably push Malachi Richardson up unless we get word about McCaw. At this point, it's really hard for me to give Pat McCaw like 20 minutes without him ever played for the Raptors before.
Very difficult to do.
So I still have Greg Monroe at 10.
Totally
I don't see this really. I mean, DeAndre Ayton will just absolutely. They are like the polar opposites of athleticism.
Oh, for sure. But why would he need to play that much more? I mean, plus Monroe played 15 minutes yesterday. I give him around 12.
Yeah.
But whatever, 10 or 12, fine.
If you're not over 20, you're probably not in play in this spot now. So that this is making, and these prices on FanDuel are nuts. Ibaka is $100 cheaper. Siakam, $300 cheaper. Van Vliet, $400 cheaper. DeLon Wright, $100 cheaper. Norm Powell, only $3,600, $300 cheaper than DK. All of those guys are cheaper than they are on DraftKings. Ibaka, Siakam, Van Vliet, DeLon Wright, Norman Powell are either first or second at the position for me across the board.
Yeah, it's pretty absurd. I mean, the news, we expected to see some of this. It totally changes the entire landscape of the slate.
We needed it.
Yeah, no question. No question. And the interesting thing is it's confusing enough to where there isn't just like one or two guys that everybody plays. You're still going to have to really break this down to figure out where you expect the minutes to be. This is not a simple 1-for-1 swap.
Right. I was just going to say that. This is not like yesterday where if we would have got value, that one guy becomes the immediate
Lillard,
thing.
Seth Curry.
There's like 6 things that could happen just for the Raptors themselves, and then the trickle down to the other positions. Like this opened up a lot of stuff. Line has dropped from what was 11.5 or 12 down to 9.5. Which is,
but most reputable places didn't even release a line on it.
What do you mean?
I mean, where were you getting it from?
At Pinnacle. Pinnacle was at 13.
Pinnacle released a line on this game?
Yeah. It was 13.5 when I woke up this morning. It's 9.5 now.
That's crazy. That usually they're very careful to release lines on these games when you have news, when you have pending news like that.
Yeah.
I can't believe that. Wow. Well, I stand corrected. For real. Usually Pinnacle is very, very...
It's the first and only place that I go each morning.
Me too. It's the only... I look at Pinnacle as well. I hadn't looked today. I just assumed that there wasn't a line. Usually you see it around 11 o'clock. Yeah, down 9.5. That's crazy.
So there we go.
I mean, could you imagine getting that? I don't know what they... I'm surprised they would release it. What'd you say, 13.5?
I had it
on the
13.
Second of a back-to-back against Phoenix. 13.
It was. I might have just typed this in wrong. It was 12 at 10:12 a.m.
Wow.
I entered it like at 7:30 a.m. and it's not letting me scroll back any further. So it was either 12. I might have just typed 13 instead of 12, but point stands.
Either way.
Yeah, point stands.
Yeah, either way.
Yeah, so down to 9 on that. 116.25 implied total right now for the Raptors. 106.75 for the Suns. I think the moral of the story is Ibaka, Siakam, Van Vliet, Wright, Powell are all perfect to me, and Danny Green is. Well, I need to dig into it and see the cascading effects of assist rates and turnover rates and rebound rates and usage and stuff for these guys being off the floor. But for right now, just baseline stuff, these guys are all underpriced by a ton.
Yeah, they are. And when you really break this rotation down, there are certain spots where you can at least feel comfortable knowing who we're getting. And what I mean by this is like, okay, with is getting the backup center minutes. So, 2 games ago we played, you look at the backup center minutes in the first rotation, subbed in and then out for Ibaka. And then in the second quarter or in the second half, Greg Monroe didn't come in for him. It was actually, I think, Anunoby came in, and then Siakam stayed in. So I'm assuming he just moved to the 5. But then Monroe returned and went out again when Ibaka came in. Point here is that certain guys what position they're going to play. So then when you do that, you can eliminate them as having or seeing any real effect or being any real impact on their playing time, and then narrow it down to what guys are going to be impacted the most by this. And I think we have that.
For sure. I just ran Wowie now for Kawhi, Lowry, OG, and Valanciunas off. They've only the most minutes that have been played in this scenario is 78 for DeLon Wright, so there's not a ton to glean. You'll have to massage that Wowie data a little bit more aggressively, but
yeah,
it is good to at least take a peek at it.
Might just be better with Kawhi, Lowry, and Joe Val, and just forget about Anunoby.
Yeah, I agree.
Get some more minutes there.
And honestly, you could probably leave Valanciunas on there. He and Monroe are going to be mild approximations of each other in this sort of scenario. Yeah, if you put OG back on, it add you can get DeLon right up to like 270 minutes, and at that point, it looks a little bit better. It's not as if any amount of information here is going to turn one of these guys from a bad play to a good play or vice versa. It just might sort of recalibrate their order. Ooh, I'm excited to dig into this after the show. But yeah, I play everybody that you think is going to play 25 minutes plus for the Raptors. I think is the easiest way to say it.
I agree with that. And Serge Ibaka, 134 minutes in this scenario, 1.14 fantasy points per minute. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Assuming he still gets the minutes, which the only thing, the back-to-back will be the only thing that I have any concerns about, but you still want to win this game. And, if Serge Ibaka is not getting the run there, like obviously Siakam will grab a few minutes at the 5, but you're going to need to get him more run at the 4 because he might not play any minutes at the 5 in this game.
Do you see Van Vliet's per minute numbers in this scenario?
1.15.
Yeah, I haven't I haven't made any adjustments to the projections outside of just getting the minutes correctly. I have Van Vliet at 0.95. So
yeah,
the chasm. Not that I'm going to just immediately move him to 1.15. That's not how this works. But there's a chasm between where I have him and where he would be, and he is still, he's already the number 1 point guard option for me. At the lowest possible number that I could, he's never going to be any lower than 0.95 right now. It's only going to go up once I dig into this, and he's already the best value. So keep that.
Yeah, that makes him a really solid play.
Now he's been shit for the last 30 days.
Oh yeah,
0.8,
no question. Go ahead.
0.8 fantasy points per minute over his last 30 days.
Yeah, not good.
No.
Ibaka has a 30% usage rate with these 3 off the court.
Yeah,
leads the team in usage. 14.5% rebounding, which is good enough for me. This is outside of the back-to-back, which I'm not really concerned about. This is a very favorable spot for Serge Ibaka. I like him quite a bit here. So in this spot, I won't include guys like Boucher and Monroe, even though Monroe's per minute production, but that's just because he's always playing off the bench. So, he's going to get more run in that case because he regularly will see some minutes without a lot of starters. But Ibaka, Van Vliet, and Siakam are all above 1 fantasy point per minute.
Fantastic. I love this team. Do you want to hear a funny stat?
Let's hear.
I was just about to start updating rates. Danny Green has played 184 possessions in this scenario that we're looking at. What do you think his
0.5 fantasy points?
What do you think his assist rate is?
Honestly, I would say 2.5% or something crazy bad.
0. He is not
zero.
He has not recorded an assist with these 3 guys off the floor. I looked at it, I was like, oh, that's a weird number. I was like, that must be Boucher's numbers. I was like, no.
90 minutes.
0 assists.
What a catastrophe he is.
Zilch.
His per minute production is 0.59.
I'd expect him to get one today.
I'm still not going near any Danny Green.
Do you know what Van Vliet's is in this scenario? 357 possessions.
What, assist rate?
Yeah.
You're saying assist rate?
Yeah.
It's got to be up close to 30%.
Yeah.
Oh, it's 42%. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, sorry. When I said the 0 for me, I look at these in a different way because of the way that I bring the data in. I look at percentage of assists per possession, which is not necessarily the same as like assist percentage. So you're seeing 42%. 14 is what I actually use in my data. Same principles, getting to the same answers, but presented differently.
Yeah, I mean, I have 14 right next to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, like the 14 is the number that I look at. 42 is the number that you see generally speaking when people talk about those sorts of rates.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a presentation thing based on whether somebody's on
or
off the floor.
That's a good rate, though. We should probably move on. We are that took some time.
Well, I mean that's going to be the most important thing we talk about today. So.
Oh yeah, no question.
Well, I mean, we could talk about the Suns now. I have some interest here, and I like
they do become a lot more appealing.
I liked them before. Devin Booker, 7,700 on FanDuel, 78 on DK, $35 on Yahoo. He is pretty chalky on all sites, I guess. I'm in for Devin Booker. I'm in for DeAndre Ayton, at least on FanDuel. No problem on DraftKings. I'm definitely in for some TJ Warren, although if he's 33% owned, this is the easiest fade for me. And I don't mean fade like go from 33 to 0. But if TJ Warren is 33%, the more likely scenario for me is that I'm at like 15 to 20.
Oh, yeah. I don't. Yeah, of course. You have to. How do you load up on a popular TJ Warren? I don't. When Booker's healthy.
Yeah.
I just don't see how you get to that. Because look, Warren, first of all, he's a low ceiling player, and he's been pretty consistent, to where he doesn't really burn you, but dude, he's not. You're not this is the easiest way to put it, to keep it simple. Very, very, very rarely, and I'm saying with Booker healthy, do you lose a tournament or lose anything by not playing TJ Warren? That's all you need to say.
Sure thing. That I agree with. I am with you there.
Booker at 7,800 on DraftKings. I mean, Booker is 7,800 on DraftKings, 77 on FanDuel. Like, you know what? I may come off some Oladipo as a result of this, because that defense for Toronto, I expect to see some serious, downgrade there. With looks a whole lot better now for Devin Booker. That price point, just because he's had 2 rough games, is really, really nice. And how do you, God, 7,700 for a guy like Devin Booker that is just so ridiculously talented, has such crazy upside? I'm on board there, man. Yeah, you kidding me? Dude, first of all, the Raptors offensive rating, get this, drops by 10 points per 100 possessions. 10 with just Leonard off the court this year, Josh. 10 points. That's crazy.
It is.
And their defensive rating declines by 5, which, it goes from 107.8 to 102, which means it has actually been better with Leonard off the court.
I have Leonard, Lowry, and Anunoby off right now. It's only 251 possessions, 97.7 defensive rating.
It's crazy.
Completely meaningless for this conversation as well. I mean, the most used lineup in this situation had 22 possessions. It's Van Vliet, Wright, Norm Powell, Miles, and J-Val.
Exactly.
2 of those guys are not playing today.
Here's the point. Here's the point I'm getting at, though, is that much like the Lakers, where their defense has been very solid lately, offense has been terrible. As long as one aspect of the Raptors is bad, then this game should stay close enough. And when that's the case, Devin Booker gets 37 minutes. Devin Booker shoots 25 times, and you can make up for the inefficiency with volume.
Yep. Yeah, I like Booker here a lot. But I liked him before this news even came out. This just makes it a little bit more palatable.
It definitely does. Yeah, for sure.
What do you think about Ayton tonight?
Yeah.
Just
maybe. Yeah. I mean, he's not overpriced. God, I think I prefer Ibaka over him, which sounds wild, but I think I prefer Ibaka over Ayton here.
I don't
They're
totally
close.
disagree with that take.
They're close, but I think I do. This is a really, really good spot for Ibaka with all of those guys off the floor. Like I was saying before, that you don't have any mega high usage players in this offense anymore. You take Leonard out, that's huge.
They just got done adjusting like assist rates and rebounding rates and usage rates for all these guys. Dude, Danny Green has been all sorts of dookie with these guys off the floor. Not that that surprises me. Danny Green is always going to be better on a team with more talent than less talent.
Yeah, just the corner three machine. That's all he does.
Just defense and throw. I'm anxious to see what he gets paid. He would look really good on the Sixers. I don't know if he would want to leave Toronto, but he would look really good on the Sixers.
No, he wouldn't.
No?
Why?
Why? You get a guy that doesn't need a shot on a team that desperately needs people that don't need to shoot. Fantastic defensively.
No, we need guys that can shoot. No, we don't need guys that don't need to shoot. What are you talking about?
No, we don't. No, maybe you're misunderstanding me. You need
Sure
guys that are good shooters, but not necessarily guys that are volume shooters. You have enough shots to go around right now between Embiid, Butler, and Simmons. What you need is someone that is willing to take the three and is good at it.
I disagree.
What do you look? So all right. So who's the ideal Sixer for you then, coming into this team to make you guys better?
We need a primary ball handler off the bench that can play 25 minutes a game, 22 minutes a game. That's
Fair.
What we need.
I don't disagree with
because
that.
we already have a JJ Redick. We already have a Landry Shamet. Like, okay, is Danny Green an upgrade from Shamet? Of course he is. Is he an upgrade from like Furkan Korkmaz? Of course he is. But what does he do for you? Like, where do you plug him in? Ahead of JJ Redick? Can't do that. Yeah, he'd be better defensively, but Redick's a better shooter. Do you plug him in on off the bench and just have him sit around where nobody can actually get him the ball and there's no ball movement? No, so I just don't see where he would fit at all. Like a Jeremy Lin to me would make more sense than a Danny Green, somebody that can actually initiate the offense.
No, I don't disagree that that's a better fit. I just mean like he would, like I think Danny Green being the fifth guy in a Ben Simmons, Butler, Embiid, Redick, and then Danny Green as the fifth is about as good as you're going to find as a closing five.
Wait, who would you play at the four?
Simmons? Butler? I mean, who cares? Like either one of them, who cares? Either one of them can do it in this league.
Yeah. I could see it as a closing lineup, but it would get really murky or muddy throughout the course of the game. They don't have anybody off the bench right now. That is their biggest weakness. The starting lineup is hardly a weakness for the 76ers.
I mean, for those
outside of bad JJ Redick defense, that's it.
In that group of guys, you have what amounts to 4+ or more defenders. Like it really doesn't matter who's playing the four between Butler, Simmons, Danny Green. I don't know why we're taking this tangent to put Danny Green on the Sixers as if this is some fucking trade the Raptors are going to make.
Yeah. Hey, you brought it up.
I don't know. I'm a really big Danny Green fan.
That's a really weird thing to say.
And you know what? You know why it's even weirder? He went to Carolina. I hated this damn dude.
Really?
My allegiances are gone. Ever since he put his balls on Paulus's face, I have not been the biggest fan.
Yeah, no, Danny Green is a good defender, and that's it.
We should probably go to Nuggets Bulls because we still have 2 more games.
Yeah, let's go.
Nuggets Bulls, 112.75 implied total for the Nugs, 100.25 for the Bulls. God, this show, man, we need the daily show.
I know.
We'll start on the Denver side, but one caveat for the Bulls. Drink. I said caveat. There you guys go. We're not.
Is that your word?
That's one of them.
Is that your word?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the one that they say. Well, the phrase when I say, "Oh, he's too cheap."
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Maybe DraftKings should price guys better, and I'll stop saying it. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No Wendell Carter today, so that'll affect some of our discussion. Jokic, 11,300, 10.6 on DK, $47 on Yahoo. I mean, those are appropriate prices for the best center in the league.
we don't have enough time on this show for me to get into it, so I'm gonna pretend that didn't
Just
happen.
go listen to the Kevin Arnovitz, Zach Lowe podcast where they talk about how Jokic is the best center on the planet.
Yeah, I'll be sure to do that. All right, Nick.
I love it so much. It's so much fun.
It really is enjoyable. I like Jokic here. There's no question. I like Jokic here. He's a good play, and he is probably going to win in blowout fashion. But hey, you can't assume that. We say it all the time. Can't assume it. Now, you have a game here that is going to play at a crawling pace. There's no doubt about that, right? Like that's going to happen. And really, even if I were to look up, like, what's the pace change with Bobby or with Wendell Carter off the court? It's hard to say because we don't know. Bobby Portis has been out for so much of the season. I really don't have much of an idea like how many minutes he's going to play and how much of a difference that's really going to make.
Not to mention
what I can tell you,
Boylan now. Like how many minutes has Portis
right.
played under Boylan? 30, 40?
Exactly. There's really no way to know. So what we can do is we take their numbers from the season. The Bulls and Nuggets both average fewer than 100 possessions per 48. They are two slow-paced teams.
Yes.
But when you are Nikola Jokic and when everything you do or when everything the Nuggets do like legitimately runs through you, well then it kind of doesn't matter. Like you're talking about Jokic is averaging 12 potential assists per game. For a big man, 12 potential assists per game is a quite impressive number. And then, okay, what about rebounding? So 12 potential assists per game for your starting center. And then you talk about rebound chances, 17.6 per game, leads the team in both of them. And I'm assuming he leads the team in usage as well. If not, it's Jamal Murray.
I was going to say it's either him or it should be Jokic, but in a weird quirk, it could be Murray.
I'll tell you right now, the player that leads this team is Nikola Jokic, actually 2.5% higher than 2% higher than Jamal Murray. So usage, facilitating, rebounding, it's all Jokic.
Yeah. He can
pace doesn't matter.
The only scary part for me in this matchup is one, his price is really high, and two, he can go for 15, 10, and 10 here, and that's a disappointing fantasy game.
Mm-hmm. Well, of course.
And be plus 28 for the game. That's the only for him to get to the volume to pay off 11-3 on FanDuel is a really scary proposition for me in a spot where both teams are so slow. He is going to be able to do whatever he wants for the entire game. Bobby Portis isn't stopping him. If Markkanen's at the 5 or something stupid, he's not stopping him. It's certainly not Cristiano Felicio, and I assume that he eats Robin Lopez up.
You would certainly expect that to be the case.
But
it really just comes down to, do you want to pay this much for Jokic or do you want to go to Embiid at a discount? I don't think Jokic is a must play here. And the reason again too is like you still have Russell Westbrook, who we haven't talked about, and Russell Westbrook is facing the Lakers, who, as I've said a million times since LeBron went down, we have a pretty good sample now, Josh. Worst offense in the league and one of the better defenses in the league. And by one of the better, I mean good. So I'm not trying to get off topic here, but just to get an idea of what teams or what we're looking at in terms of comparisons to, or in terms of alternatives to somebody like Nikola Jokic. I mean, Westbrook could go out there and smash, go for 75 or something. And then Jokic is, like you said, 15, 11, and 12 or whatever it is, isn't nearly as appealing and actually is disappointing.
Especially now with Barton back, Gary Harris questionable. There's so many mouths to feed that Jokic will happily feed all of those mouths and take 4 shots today. Like, that's a scenario. It's really great for the Nuggets. It's really great for everyone else on Denver. It's not necessarily fantastic for Nikola Jokic's fantasy propositions tonight.
It is definitely one of those games where you could see him shoot, 9 times because he doesn't really need to.
Yeah.
But we are
or
just
he could put up 80
I mean,
and absolutely wipe the floor with them because he has that ability. It's just,
yes, he does.
He has to do every bit of that at 11-3 on FanDuel or 10-6 on DK.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This really just comes down to, like, do you want to play Westbrook? What do you want to do with Embiid? And then go from there.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's any clear, decisive, like, determining factor right now. I don't know if there is, really.
Do you like anything from Denver here?
And by the way, like Westbrook, Embiid, and Jokic, you look at projected ownership, 22 for Westbrook, then down 2% to 20 for Embiid, and then down 2% to Jokic. They're all right in the same ballpark. Sorry, what was the question?
Do you like anything from Denver?
No, and I haven't recently because I'd like to see Murray's price come down, especially with Barton healthy. Not that he's taking Murray's minutes away, but he's very capable of siphoning off usage. And then if Gary Harris plays, there's another guy that, yeah, you say, well, what are you talking about? Gary Harris isn't going to take shots away. Well, he's going to take more shots than Torrey Craig or generally more than like Malik Beasley.
Yeah,
And then
Morris.
Monty Morris, yeah, and then Millsap's back. So Millsap is going to take more than Plumlee, who was taking 2-3 shots per game in the starting lineup. Even if Millsap isn't a high volume shooter, it's a muddled lineup, and I really don't like it right now.
Yeah, and then Wancho, who was playing 30 minutes a game before, is like a 12% usage guy. He's not exactly jacking shit up from time to time. So
that's another perfect example. Yeah, and he's not really getting any minutes anymore, 12, 14 per game.
Yeah.
Right,
so
exactly.
I have a hard time prioritizing anything here from Denver. It's on the surface a fantastic spot, but if everybody is priced where they were when people were still out and you're in a slow ass matchup against the Bulls, you really need things to break right specifically. I like Paul Millsap for $21 on Yahoo. I'm not sure that I would prioritize a single soul on the rest of this team.
I don't think you can. I don't think you can.
I would probably be under the field
Paul
on like 22% Jamal Murray here. That is not a spot where I want to be, particularly against the Bulls, where the only thing that I trust on Chicago is the fact that Chris Dunn is good defensively.
Right, and I really haven't. I haven't been on Murray since this team began to get healthy.
Right, same.
And I'm not talking. I'm talking about even before Will Barton, because the price came up and really the production doesn't match that. It doesn't match it enough.
Yeah.
He's a good player, but it's just it's not enough. It really isn't.
Want to walk through this Chicago mess?
Because yes, I do.
Sorry.
Plus Murray, Murray doesn't facilitate enough.
No.
So if the usage isn't there, like it's not like if it like with even use Lonzo Ball for example. If Lonzo's usage isn't there, you can still get 10 points and 13 assists on a good day. With Murray, I know he had that one game with 1 million assists.
Yeah.
But aside from that, it's Jokic that's doing the facilitating.
Right.
It kills him.
Yeah. This is not an appealing spot for me here. Okay. No Wendell Carter. So everybody is quick to get to the Bobby Portis train. 4,800 on FanDuel, 4,600 on DraftKings. He is the chalk play on both sites, 50% expected ownership. I don't really know what to do here. I don't know how many minutes he's going to play. I have him in for 26 right now. He's clearly a value at that spot. Number 2 on DraftKings for me at the position. He's 5th for me on FanDuel. I don't know what else to do with his minutes, so I'm anxious to see what you think of Portis, because if he's not playing 30, I don't agree with the ownership at all. And I know he's a fantasy point monster when he's on the floor.
Right, so one of the big things is what's going to happen with Robin Lopez.
Yeah,
right?
I have him in for 22 minutes right now.
So we found out that he was going to see his minutes reduced.
Yeah,
but reducing 13 or so minutes per game is basically reducing it to nothing. Yeah. And Robin Lopez would figure to see significant minutes if he was getting run and Carter was out. By significant, I mean around 20 or so. Not viable for fantasy, but in the rotation. Have to account for him. I think you probably see Lopez get 13 minutes here, around what he was playing, because he went for 13 and nothing. I think he probably gets back to around 13.
So do you give Felicio those minutes then?
Well, with Felice, what I was going to say is with Portis, you keep hearing that Portis is limited to 28 minutes. It's like every single game, and then he doesn't play anything. So Portis, let's say he's on that 28-minute limit. It's not that I'm not confident that he just gets to 28, but I think you have to project Portis at 28. And then if you put, say, Robin Lopez at 13, then you give a handful of minutes to Felicio, and that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
But bottom line is, I don't see any way Portis doesn't see the most minutes at center, and I'd be very surprised if he saw fewer than 25 minutes. That's where I'm willing to go. I'd be very surprised if Portis saw less than 25.
Yeah, I bumped him up a minute. I cut down Robin Lopez to 15. I gave Felicio 7. That's that's the 48 center minutes. I don't get the sense in this spot that they're going to be going to anything other than that.
So you have him at 26 minutes?
27 for Portis, 15 for Lopez. It looks like I gave an extra minute here. I could drop Lopez to 14, but that's really not the point of it all.
But I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
So we're pretty much in line with each other. Yeah.
And look, if we get word that he is not limited, then that changes. But right now we don't have that. And he has not been playing those minutes in any of these games.
I feel like, though, I feel like games keep going where Boylen wants to give him those minutes and then doesn't. Like, why keep saying he's limited to 28 minutes and then just giving him nothing? The one against Golden State was a complete wash. Then he shot 1 for 11 against the Lakers and was just terrible in 17 minutes. I think Portis is, if you want to project him at 26, that's reasonable. But whether you're projecting him at 26 or 28 or 25, he's still going to come in as your top value play, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I will be under the field at 50%. I would guess that I would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 30.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I might just go way over the field.
Yeah. Everything that I've looked at over these past couple days and digging into this stuff tells me that I should probably not be anywhere near that 50% number off the top of my head.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see it differently. And the reason I see it differently is Wendell Carter Jr. is a young rookie with a lot of potential. Jim Boylen takes over, and as of now, you want to see what you got in these guys. His playing time has been robust since Boylen took over. He's played 30 and 28 minutes over his last 2 games. You're taking about, we'll say 29 minutes. You're taking 29 minutes out of the rotation, and your alternatives to Bobby Portis are Robin Lopez and Cristiano Felicio. To me, it's a very simple fix. Bobby Portis gets the minutes.
Yeah, that is sort of the thought process of a rational team trying to win a basketball game, not necessarily the thought process of the Chicago Bulls.
No. But it's not, though. It's not that. Like, Robin Lopez didn't play last game, and he's already playing so little minutes.
Okay, do you really explain to me why Jabari Parker is then playing? Because he also doesn't play, and he played 20 minutes in his last game and is now apparently chalk today.
Hey, Jabari Parker's still young.
Jabari Parker was removed from the rotation completely.
Understood.
Why, though?
But, because they said they had too many bigs.
And Jabari Parker was the guy to remove out of that shit?
I mean, he has been pretty bad.
That's why I have no problem thinking that Robin Lopez could see additional minutes. I have no idea what the Bulls are doing.
So by additional minutes, what are you saying?
It would not shock me if Robin Lopez played 20 minutes here against Jokic and Mason Plumlee.
Oh, okay. 20 minutes. Okay.
Or more,
fine.
potentially. But, 20 seems realistic to me as a potential game here. Now, don't get me wrong.
But if he plays 20, I still give... If he plays 20, I'd still give Portis 25, and then I'd give Felicio 3.
Yeah, I agree. We really need to get information on if Portis is limited or not, because that's really the key. If they say there are no restrictions for Portis, then he's probably projected for 30. But right now, I don't see how we can get to that.
I'm not putting him at 30. Restrictions or not, I'd put him 26 to 28. But what I'm saying is I'd feel comfortable in doing that, comfortable rostering him pretty heavily at that price.
But
At 26 to 28 minutes.
So what do you want to do with Jabari Parker? 30% expected ownership right now on DK at 3,600. He's $4,900 on FanDuel. I have him in for 20 minutes. Any thoughts as to what he plays today?
That's difficult. The center rotation, you can at least look at a couple of guys and say, all right, there you have it. In this case, it's difficult. I'm not going to act like I feel comfortable explaining who's gonna or where his minutes are gonna come from. It's pretty difficult. No, I don't know. I think at that price, you could do worse because Jabari Parker is at least capable of giving you decent permanent production at times.
Yeah.
Like take the game against Utah for example. He came in for Markkanen, and upon doing so, he played 9 straight minutes, and then and then he basically had the exact same rotation in the second half, and that's important because when that game started to go downwards, and it started to get out of control where the Jazz went up by 13 late in the game, Parker was off the court. So this was not a blowout run rotation. This was actually a normal rotation. And what we saw was, pretty close to hockey line changes in that second half where Harrison, Parker, Selden, Arcidiacono all came off the court at the same time, and the rest of the team closed it out, save for Hutchison being replaced by who was it? Wayne Selden later in the game. It's a tough one to break down for sure. But given the recent rotations that we've seen, I would give Jabari Parker another 17 minutes. Yeah, I'd kind of have to.
Yeah, I went to 20. Someone in chat was like, oh, they're auditioning Parker for a trade. There's not a team on the planet that will trade for Jabari Parker on that contract right now. Zero. They would have to attach an asset going out. It's just not happening.
Right. I mean, when you say he's not going to play anymore,
he's not playing for the Bulls. Who's trying to soak that up?
Yeah, exactly. But it's the contract is the only thing that matters here.
Shit, they bid against themselves in the offseason last year to give him $20 million.
Oh God, what a disaster.
All right, so look, I'm going to be under the field on Bobby Portis, barring news that he can get 30 minutes, at which point I think it's a little more feasible. $3,600 for Jabari on DraftKings makes some sense to me if you think that he can play more than 20 minutes. If he's 30% owned, that is also not appealing. I'm not trying to load up on guys from the Bulls in a 12.5 point game against the Nuggets. I'd rather soak up the value in Toronto and take guys that I like.
All right. Yeah, Toronto is one of those teams that also will make your skin crawl when you're trying to decide where the cheap guys to go to there, like DeLon Wright and all that. But no, I think it's perfectly reasonable to have that mentality, especially with Jabari if he's going to be 30%. But no, we're on different pages with Portis. I think that just based on his per minute production, not this year but last year and in previous seasons, his willingness to get up a lot of shots is really really friendly. And the only the one thing is you move him into a lineup. You move into a starting lineup where usage would expectedly go down, but at the same time, it's not like Chris Dunn is firing off a lot of shots each game. So really, it's Zach LaVine and then some Lauri Markkanen. But it's not like other than LaVine, there's going to be shots to go around here. Porter should still get some work, so I'm not worried.
Oh, I'm not worried. I just think he's overowned.
Okay.
He's clearly a great spot in the mid fours if he's going to be soaking up the time, but I don't need to be there with the rest of the public on this one.
I mean, would I love for him not to be 50%? Yeah, of course. But I understand why. Like, I think there's, good chalk and bad chalk. And with taking, you have a 30-minute void at the center spot, and Robin Lopez and Felicio are your secondary alternatives. It just makes sense that Portis would get it. But then again, hey, there's not, logic doesn't always dictate the moves here when you're dealing with teams like the Bulls.
That couldn't be more true. All right, we're at an hour 40. Let's close this out. Oklahoma City and the Lakers.
I mean, Russell Westbrook, I like him a lot. I think that's all that needs to be said. Again, Lakers since December 26th, 100.9 offensive rating. Dismal. Defensive rating 103.5, third best in the league. Pace 104.68, second fastest pace. Can you guess who's playing at the fastest pace in the league over that span?
The Hawks?
That would be your Thunder.
Okay.
So, over the last 3 weeks, almost the fastest, 3 weeks, your fastest paced teams in the league are OKC, the LA Lakers. This game has a lower over under, and I think that is for one simple reason, that the defenses are strong and the Lakers offense is that bad.
Agreed. Yeah. Dude, Russ.
Dude, their offense is really bad, Josh. I mean,
they have nothing. I mean, they don't have. Oh God. Well,
everyone's
when Lonzo
so excited.
Ball is only going to get to the line for 1.4 free throws a game and shoot 40% from the field, you're kind of limiting yourself.
Right. Everyone, I get it. You were super excited to get LeBron there. I don't blame you for it. But you got to kind of look into the future here. Like, okay, is this going to be short-lived? What happens after this?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been a travesty with him off the court.
Who do you like more, Russ or Paul George tonight? Similar ownership on both sites. They're 34 and 32 on FanDuel, 22 and 21 on DK.
Yeah, I still like Westbrook more. I still, his ceiling is as good as George has been, and he's been good. He's averaging career highs in like almost every single category, especially from a fantasy standpoint. He's been outstanding, way better than he's ever been in his career. He's been great. But Russell Westbrook is Russell Westbrook for a reason, and I mean, I just don't really see myself saying that I have Paul George over him. And another reason, I think I mentioned this to you on Tuesday's show, the drives per game recently for Westbrook has really caught my eye, and I think it's very important to talk about that, because Russell Westbrook, when he's getting to the rim, is just exponentially better and more effective, instead of just jacking up these mid-range shots and these three-point shots. I mean, he can do that as well, but just give me those opportunities from around the basket where, just a freakish athlete like Westbrook is doing what he needs to do. 23 drives per game since the start of January. And if you just look, his shooting has improved dramatically. I don't think there's any coincidence why that's the case.
Yeah, I have George by a hair. But I want both of these guys in abundance. This is the spot for me. There's too much to go around. There's the game itself fits better than anything else. This is the reason why I would much rather have Westbrook and George than like Jokic tonight.
Right, and I think a very reasonable take. I have no problem with that. Do I have George over him? That's tough. His price is, I guess, still reasonable, but he is getting up there a little bit. Like I actually, this will be an unpopular opinion, but if I don't have the money to get to George, but I have 9,200 on DraftKings, I have no problem getting down to like Ben Simmons there.
Sure.
And really, Ben Simmons and Paul George, from a production standpoint, at least over the last month, have been very, very similar players. Not how they produce, but the day-to-day production.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have no problem making that drop. I'd keep an eye on the ownership. Any interest in Adams or Grant?
You know where I stand with Adams. We talked about this the other day.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't like him, but he shot 7 for 7 and still had 27 fantasy points in 38 minutes.
Yeah.
He's a fine player. He's a great real life player. I mean, a defensive anchor, fantastic. But in the same breath, like, I'm paying $7+ K for for Adams, why not just go to Serge Ibaka and expect similar, if not better, production at a $700 discount, right? Why not just go to even a Willie Cauley-Stein or a DeAndre Ayton? You're the extra 500-700 you're paying for Adams is not getting you the points that you're looking for, at least that I'm looking for. And I won't repeat everything I said from last week, or from last show, but Russell Westbrook does really, take away a lot of opportunities on the boards for a guy like Adams, and it hurts him.
Yeah, he's a tough sell for me at 7,800, especially with 18% ownership. I would be under on Adams. There's just too many other guys to transition to, like Bismack Biyombo, for instance.
You're not wrong, though. Like, I know it sounds silly, but not wrong. Bismack Biyombo is a better point per dollar value, in my opinion.
Mine as well. Talk to me about the Lakers. Let's close this out. Kuzma, Ingram, Ball would be the three main guys. And then what do you want to do with this little Josh Hart KCP conundrum we've got going on?
Do I want to do anything with it?
Do you want to play $4,500 KCP on FanDuel with his projected 40% ownership?
No, but I understand it. I get it. Really, that's all I can say about it. KCP, I'm not playing Josh Hart. Okay, I'll tell you that. I'm not. Jay Good says I love Lavi shitting on Steven Adams. I'm not. I just said he's a great. I'm not. He said Josh Engelman has come around to Lavi's way of seeing him. I think he has a little bit. I think he has a bit.
Jay Goods. I mean, I think we both agree that he is incredible in real life as a piece of that team. Yeah, he's
and he looks like a samurai warrior, which is just fucking awesome.
Oh God, I just watched an interview with him a couple days ago where he didn't even know like someone's name on the other team, which I thought was really funny. I wish I could remember who it was. The chat might know it. Yeah, look, he's on a 5-game slate. He's way more appealing than he is on a 10-game slate. Let's put it that way. But yeah, I don't need Steven Adams in a fifth of my lineups as he's currently projected.
No, I don't need him in a sixth of them. I mean, once in a while he's going to have a pretty solid game. Could it come today? Yeah, actually, the Lakers, if there's one area of struggle, it's against opposing centers. Adams just can't take advantage of that like other centers can, because he's playing with somebody like Russell Westbrook and even Paul George, who has just been very impactful on the boards as well. But that's hardly impacting him like what Russell Westbrook is. Most teams don't have guards that can haul in 13, 15 rebounds a game. But no, where are you at on the backcourt for LA? And then we'll close this out with the front court.
I mean, they're much less appealing on FanDuel, where they're priced up. They're all much cheaper on DraftKings. Kuzma and Ingram are both at roughly 30% ownership. Ball is at 20%.
I think Lonzo's a very good play on DraftKings.
Yeah, I would probably prefer Lonzo to those other two guys, just based on the ownership. I think they're all pretty comparable. I have Kuzma at 36 fantasy points, Ingram at 35, Lonzo at 34. Like, they're all just there. So if that's the way that it looks, I'd rather just make adjustments to the ownership. You're clearly going to have, if you're playing multiple line, like even if you're just playing at 20 max, Kuzma, Ingram, and Ball are going to be big pieces of that on a 5-game slate in a monster pace up spot. Hard to avoid these guys. And now they're really easy to fit in with all of the value that exists. Not that they were expensive or anything. I just mean like you don't have to worry about roster construction much longer for today. I would go Ball, probably Ball, Ingram, Kuzma. Not really with any sort of confidence, but Ball would be 1 for me.
Correct. Or agreed. I'm with you there. And again, we're running late, so I won't repeat it, but Ingram's rates are still he's due for positive regression here. He really is. As a facilitator, a scorer, and even a rebounder. I'd say rebounding is actually pretty on par with what it should be since LeBron went down. And he's played 40 minutes in back-to-back games. So, they're on DraftKings, they are significantly underpriced. Significantly. And Brandon Ingram on FanDuel, where he's 7,300, is also very, very reasonable at a small forward position that very rarely gives you much to love. Yeah, I'm with you there. I think a lot of it just really comes down to salary, to price point, right? And all of them actually, the dynamic pricing on DraftKings is very interesting because OKC still plays at a league leading pace right now, and Kuzma, Ingram, and Lonzo Ball in any order are all very good plays. But I would order him in the same as you. But I would say that Kuzma and Ingram are very much interchangeable, and I wouldn't argue with anyone who put Kuzma ahead of Ingram.
I agree. The only thing that I would tell anybody out of this game is to not have 40% KCP if he's 40% owned on FanDuel.
I would agree with that.
Just you don't need to do that.
No, of course not. It's unnecessary.
Yeah, like just punt the position in its entirety and play Shumpert or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I don't know, Danny Green now. Whatever. Just, you don't need 40% of KCP. That value, I mean, it should go down now with all of the Raptors news. He is no longer as necessary of a piece.
I'll push back just on one thing. I wouldn't, if I'm fading KCP, it's not going to be for Green or Shumpert, but I will try and get away from him.
Yeah, and again, this is not you should play KCP at 0%. It's you should play KCP at like 20 to 25 instead of 50 or 40. But that number is going to go down one way or the other in the next ownership update.
It pretty much has to.
Yeah. Like, I mean, he's not a great fantasy player. He's 0.74 fantasy points per minute over his last 30 days. He's never been fantastic. You need him to play 35 minutes for you to be really happy with what you can get. But he can put up 7 tonight.
Yeah, it just depends on it. For me, it's if you're fading KCP on ownership, who are you pivoting to? Like, don't just fade for ownership and then pivot to someone that's terrible. That's all I would say. Don't fade him just because, you expect him to be high on and then go to someone that has like a 0.1% chance of giving you the same production as KCP. That's all. Like, if you're pivoting, make it to somebody that at least can be worth the pivot in more than 5% of the time.
I'm with you. Trying to look through the list of other shooting guards.
I gotta set a PGA lineup. Time flies.
I didn't put anything in for PGA this week.
I always play light for PGA because I don't know it. I just use other people's content.
Exactly. Speaking of other people's content, I think we are done here. We will have the deep dive coming out from Adam in the early afternoon. Deeper dive, Laffy coming back with Adam from 5 to 6, and then flying solo for Live Before Lock tonight, 6 to 7, breaking this all down one last time before everything shuts off. Hit that like button. Thumbs up is monstrous for us. We would really appreciate it. You guys just got an hour and 53 minutes from Laffy and I, which I don't know what's going to happen if they ever put like a 10-game Tuesday, Thursday slate. We'll just be here until lock.
Yeah, one of us should call out sick.
Yeah. NBA Strategy, the promo code, 50% off your first monthly package. Any package you want, 50% off. Just enter the promo code NBA Strategy. One big word. We'll have tomorrow, I believe, 1:30. It'll be the final, well, maybe the final. On the contrary, Evan Silva, Chris Spags, Alex Baker breaking down the two NFL games for Sunday. That's it. That's all I got. You got anything else? Anything you want to plug?
Oh, see you tonight, 5 p.m. Eastern time.
There you go, everybody. Best of luck. We'll see you at the top of the leaderboards. There we go.